my lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. I am Heather and this is The Happenings with H.A.P. H.A.P. meaning my initials. We are finally coming to the end of 2020 and what a long, strange trip it's been. I, like everyone else, is very much looking forward to 2021. Fingers crossed. But with 2021, it also means new book releases, and there are a lot of big ones coming. I had debated how I wanted to do this video because back in June, I did a mid-year 2020 most anticipated releases, which actually turned out to be one of my more popular videos because there's so many things releasing. I'm going to split the year in half. So this video is going to cover my most anticipated releases for the first half of 2021. And then at the end of May, I will be doing another video for the rest of the year of 2021 and most anticipated releases. I wanted to leave it open because who knows what will be actually announced in the beginning months of 2021 that will be for the end of the year. I wanted to narrow it down to 6, which was impossible, so I narrowed it down to 12. However, I do have a bonus one coming out at the end of December. I wanted to include it in this video because I want to read it. So if you are new to the channel, welcome. I hope you enjoy this video. If you are returning, I hope you find this video useful for your reading for 2021. Hit the subscribe button down below. Doing research for this, I didn't realize some of the cool stuff coming out, and I'm very excited for it, so I hope you guys will be too. Without further ado, let us get into my most anticipated releases for the first half of 2021. The first book we have is my bonus book, and that is going to be released on December 29th, 2020, which is why it's a bonus because it's going to be released 3 days before the end of the year, so it might as well be a 2021 release. And that is The Mystery of Mrs. Christie by Benedict. So this is basically what it says. It's a mystery, true life / historical fiction. I've read like 1 or 2 Agatha Christie novels like years ago, and I enjoyed them, but I didn't really know much about her life. And apparently in 1926, Agatha Christie went missing and they found her empty car. She was missing for 11 days, and when she finally actually came back after 11 days, she had amnesia. In this book, it explores what might have happened in the span of those 11 days. I did not know anything about this. I didn't know that this actually happened to her. So I'm very intrigued what this book might explore in a historical fiction vein. It's definitely right up my alley with true history mixed with historical fiction, as well as like a mystery. Like, it's a lot wrapped up together, but that's mainly the reason I added it to this list, because I saw it and read about it and I was like, this is a spoiler alert. It's going to be in my January TBR because it just sounds so interesting. And yeah, I had to add it to this list because that's such an interesting concept. Again, something I'm learning I didn't know. So this next book to be released on January 5th, 2021 is Lore by Alexandra Bracken. So this seems like it's going to be a fantasy, Greek mythology, contemporary mishmash of things together, which all of those things sound amazing. It is set in New York City, and it is during the Aegon, which is when 9 rebellious Greek gods are forced to go down to Earth to be mortal, and descendants from ancient bloodlines hunt them down in order to kill them and seize their power. That's all I know about it, really. Medusa is on the cover. I'm not sure how Medusa fits into this. I'm here for Greek mythology and gods, and this just sounds like fantastic, like the Hunger Games meets Greek mythology. I'm here for that. So I don't really want to know much more about it because I think this sounds amazing, and it is definitely going to be on a must-read list for me. As soon as I read about it, I was like, yes, please. This one I'm super excited for. The next book on my list is also being released on January 5th, 2021, and that is Roman and Jewel by Dana L. Davis. This one interests me because it is set in the theater world. Essentially, a Broadway show of Romeo and Juliet is being created as kind of like getting the Hamilton treatment, so it's going to be a hip-hop Broadway musical, and it follows an actress who was hoping to get the lead, but ends up being an understudy to like a mega, I think, pop star or something like that, and she starts falling for the lead that's playing the Romeo character, but then this mega superstar is also falling for him, so it's definitely love triangle, star-crossed lover type of thing. There's so few books that take place in the theater world. It's just something that's not really talked about, and I'm very curious how true to life. Obviously, it's, you know, it's a contemporary romance type of stuff, so it's going to be a little dramatic, but I'm curious how real to life they're going to be with the way rehearsals are ran and auditions and stuff like that. So I'm very curious about that, but the idea of this just seemed really intriguing, and it is young adult, so yeah, I'm definitely here for it. It sounds really cool, and I'm very excited to read this one. The next book on my list, again, is also released on January 5th, 2021. That seems to be a huge day for new book releases. And it is Nick by Michael Farris Smith. If this cover looks somewhat familiar to you, for anyone that basically had an English class in high school in the United States, it looks very similar to The Great Gatsby, and that's because this novel follows Nick Carraway, the narrator of The Great Gatsby, before he goes to West Egg. So this book is kind of a prequel retelling of Great Gatsby and follows Nick Carraway from his time as a World War I soldier and his exploits before he got involved in all of the Gatsby Daisy drama. I did enjoy Great Gatsby, so I'm very interested in this because without really thinking about it, because, you know, again, if you went to high school in the United States, you focus so much on symbolism of that damn book. You kind of forget the narrative of it, and also the fact that you don't really know much about Nick in the first place. He's just the reader's cipher. So to see him and his life be imagined, I'm very interested in. Like, this one kind of took me by surprise because I didn't, you know anything about it, but I basically saw the cover and I was like, that cover is very familiar and I know why. So I'm definitely very interested to see where this is going to go and how it will lead into the events of The Great Gatsby. So if you are an English nerd or probably a teacher of high school English and have ever done this novel, maybe you might be interested in this adaptation retelling, because I know I am. The next book on my list is going to be released on February 2nd, 2021, and that is Fat Chance Charlie Vega by Crystal Maldonado. So what drew me to this one was the fact that the main character is plus size, which is something in young adult fiction, and especially young adult contemporary romance fiction, like never seen. So I had to add this to my list. As someone that grew up like that and is still a plus size woman, it's so rare to see yourself represented. And even though Crystal Maldonado is Latina and Charlie Vega is also Latina, I still feel like represented in this book, and I have to read it. I have to support it. The plot sounds really interesting. Charlie is trying to be known for not just the way she looks, and she ends up kind of feeling like she's starting a fling with a classmate, but realizes that he asked out her thinner, prettier best friend first, and so she's not sure where she stands with him and if this is real or not, or a way to get with the friend by being with her type of a deal. So it seems like it's all about identity and being comfortable in yourself, basically not giving a shit what the world thinks about you and how you look. And this is something for young adult fiction that I think is needed. While I enjoy young adult fiction a lot, I read a lot of YA. A lot of the female protagonists are very much the not like other girls prototypes, and it can get very old. Just because someone wearing glasses or has weird interests doesn't make them unattractive, yet, you know, they're constantly will say they're unattractive while gorgeous supermodel men go after them. So having a protagonist like Charlie seems to be way more grounded in reality, and I'm very much looking forward to this because I just think it's going to be something different, and I'm hoping it's going to spawn a bit more diverse type of protagonist in young adult fiction, because it's desperately needed on across genders, race, sexualities, as well as physicalities and disabilities. Stuff needs to be a bit more broad, and this book sounds like it could be a real great catalyst to that, so I'm really excited for it. The next book on my list is also going to be released on February 2nd, 2021, and that is The Project by Courtney Summers. Courtney Summers wrote one of my favorite books of the year, spoiler alert, Sadie. Much like Sadie, though, it does follow a sister relationship. Lou is not too keen on the fact that her sister B has joined this collective called the Unity Project, which is known for like community outreach and charitable programs, but she's always felt that something was off about it and that it was in fact a cult. And one day a man shows up at the magazine she works at claiming that the Unity Project killed his son. So she ends up going into an investigation to try to once and for all show the world what this collective, this cult is actually all about, and hopefully get her sister back in the process. So it does give me a bit of Sadie vibes in that it is a sister trying to help her sister and get to the bottom of what is going on. We don't know much about the sister according to the synopsis, aside the fact that she's in this cult, so I have no idea how this would end. Any type of true crime cult type of stuff is like right up my alley. But yeah, it just sounds extremely interesting. I'm very much looking forward to this one a lot. The next book on my list is, if you know anything about me and my channel, one of my top anticipated releases of all of 2021, and that is Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare, the second book in the Last Hours trilogy. I'm not going to say much about it. I have an entire theory video on what I think this book will be about based on the cover alone and what we know about Chain of Gold, as well as the previous Shadowhunter novels and the latter Shadowhunter novels. I am Shadowhunter trash. I am so here for this one. I cannot wait. This is going to be the day of release read for me. Like, Cassandra, Clare, if you hear me and want to send me an arc, I will very much appreciate it. Thank you. So looking forward to this one. I'm ready to bawl my eyes out at the James Cordelia love story. I'm very excited for this. Oh man, I can't wait for March 2nd. I can't wait for this book. The next book on my list is also going to be released on March 2nd, 2021, and it is The Conductors by Nicole Glover. The synopsis for this one really pulled me in. I think I put it on my Goodreads TBR like when I first read about it in like early June, so I've been waiting for this one for a while. This is a fantasy historical fiction where realistic magical realism involved in it. It follows Hetty Rhodes, who was a conductor on the Underground Railroad, meaning that she ushered a bunch of slaves from the south to the north, and this takes place in post-Civil War era where Hetty and her husband Benji are now living in Philadelphia, and they solve murders and mysteries that white authorities don't want to actually deal with. Basically, if it's not for them, a lot of these cases would just go unsolved. That premise alone just sounds absolutely amazing. There is magic involved somehow. Hetty is able to use magic. I'm not sure based on the synopsis what that actually means, but I'm here for like a husband and wife duo solving murder mysteries. It's one reason I love the Stalking Jack the Ripper series so much, is the relationship involved with the couple solving these mysteries. Like, that's a great dynamic, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of, you know, racial history and civil rights history involved in this, especially in the Reconstruction era America. So I'm very interested in this. Like, premise alone sounds fantastic, and historical fictions are right up my alley, as well as fantasy. So like, this checks off a lot of boxes for stuff that Heather loves. So I can't wait for this one to finally be released. Like I said, by the time it's released, I will have TBR'd it almost a year before. March, again, can't come soon enough. I'm super excited for this one. The next book on my list is going to be released March 30th, 2021, and it is Wild Women and the Blues by Denny S. Bryce. So this novel is split between two different timelines. There is the timeline that follows Honoree, who is a, I believe, Black chorus girl who is living in 1920 Chicago, as well as in 2015 with a film student, Sawyer. I will say the synopsis is giving me a bit of City of Girls and Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo vibes, in that the timelines kind of almost converge because Sawyer is actually interviewing Honoree on her deathbed so that he can get some real life insight into a legendary filmmaker that she used to know back in her youth. There is a bit of back and forth with telling about her life, and I'm a sucker for books like that. I loved both Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and City of Girls, so again, this is right up my alley. Jazz age in Chicago is not something I'm super familiar with, especially in regards to what they refer to as black and tan clubs back then, so I'm very excited for this one. Historical fiction, contemporary. Yeah, like I said, this is giving me those vibes, and if it's anything like those books, I'm definitely going to love it. Again, checks off a lot of boxes that I'm interested in. The next book on my list is going to be released on April 6, 2021, and it is another super anticipated read for me. It is You Love Me by Carolyn Kepnes, and it is going to be the third book in the You series, which, whoo boy, after the ending of Hidden Bodies, I'm very curious where this is going to go. If you've only watched the Netflix series, it is nothing like the books, especially in season 2. I know they're filming season 3 of the Netflix show right now. I'm guessing that they do know a bit of what's going to happen based on the fact that the novel is pretty much set in the can, if you will. So I'm very curious of what's going to happen, but I love this series so much, and I doubt it's not going to happen. I will be reading the audiobook for this one because I'm assuming, based on popular demand, Santino Fontana will be back as the narrator. It's basically the audiobook he's kind of known for right now, and he is superb in it, and oh man, I just freaking love Joe. Joe is fucking crazy, and I adore it. So I'm very excited for this one. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but man, I just love this series so much, and I cannot wait for what's going to happen to him and Love and his crazy self. Like, the ending of Hidden Bodies was a ride, so we shall see where Joe ends up in this one. The next book on my list is another anticipated read that actually I was anticipating for 2020, but it got unfortunately delayed. And this one will now be released on April 27th, 2021. And it is The Nobleman's Guide to Scandals and Shipwrecks by Mackenzi Lee. So this is going to be the third book in the Montague siblings trilogy. The first one being The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, and the second one being The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy. So the third novel follows a teenage Adrian who was the much younger brother of Monty, who was the protagonist of the first novel, and Felicity, who was the protagonist of the second novel. Again, I don't need to know much more about this novel because I just love this series so much. Mackenzi Lee has said that both Monty and Felicity will be slightly returning as very side characters in this, so I'm very curious of what quirks the youngest Montague brother will have. Again, I've been waiting for this one for a few years now, so I'm super excited for it. All of them are really fun reads, and I'm curious. I think this will be the last in the series, so I'm curious how the series is going to wrap up, if it will have some sort of like overall conclusion in some way. Very fun series if you've not read them, and I'm very much looking forward to this. The next book on my list will be released on May 6, 2021, and it is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. Yes, that Casey McQuiston who took the world by storm with her debut Red, White, and Royal Blue, which I absolutely adored. Another spoiler, top book that I've read this year. And I'm very curious how this follow-up will be because I know there's going to be a lot of hype for it, but it definitely sounds like it will be a different type of a story. This novel will also be a queer romance between two women by the looks of it. I'm not sure of what their gender identities or sexual affiliations are based on the synopsis, but this is supposed to be kind of like a take on Kate and Leopold. So it follows August, who is just kind of getting by in life and meets Jane on her daily subway commutes and starts to kind of develop a crush for her and stuff like that, only to find out that Jane is actually from the 1970s. I don't know if the subway is like a time portal. I'm not sure. I don't know much more about it than that little caveat to their relationship, but I'm here for it. After reading Red, White, and Royal Blue, like Casey McQuiston can do no wrong. Based on that novel, I'm sure that this is going to deal with a lot of things because the 1970s is usually not a time I feel like written about very often. It usually gets overshadowed by the decades surrounding it, so like the 60s and the 80s and even sometimes the 90s. So I'm assuming that there's a reason that she set this character in the 1970s because like with Red, White, and Royal Blue, I'm assuming that this novel will also have a lot more deeper undertones and just being like a kind of soft and sappy, happy romance. So I'm very curious for that aspect of it, again, because of the time that it's set in and also the place, New York City. So I'm very interested in that. And yeah, Casey McQuiston like blew me away with that novel. I'm super anticipating, considering this is happening so quickly, her second novel. I'm here for it, very excited for it, for sure. The last novel on the list, like I said, for the first half of 2021, this one will be released on May 25th, 2021, is Mailbu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I fell in love with Taylor Jenkins Reid after reading Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, Daisy Jones and the Six, and then her contemporary romance, Maybe in Another Life. So I'm really curious about this one. This one also takes place in a different decade, so you could kind of call it historical fiction. It takes place in 1983 and follows four famous siblings who are having their annual big end of summer party. And apparently over the course of 24 hours, stuff happens and the relationships and bonds that this family of siblings has changes. I'm not really sure what more about it. Like, I don't know in the style how this will be written, if it will be in a similar vein to Daisy Jones and the Six, if it will be more like Seven Husbands, not sure, but pretty much Taylor Jenkins Reid is gonna write it. I'll probably end up reading it. So like, again, it's set in the 80s. There's a reason it's set in the 80s, I'm sure. So I'm very much looking forward to this. It doesn't, like, I'm not really sure, again, like what the tone of it will be and what type of a novel it will be. If it will just be the straight narrative or a look back retrospective type of novel, not sure, but I'm here for it anyway. Love what she writes, and this will be a perfect kind of lead into summer, I think, considering it's going to be like right at the beginning of the summer season. And there you have it. There are the list of the novels I'm most looking forward to reading in the first half of 2021. It's definitely a mix of genres for sure, and some very, very anticipated releases, and also ones that I'm just really interested in based on the synopsis and that will be new to me authors. There are definitely more that I'm interested in, but these were like the top of the top that I just definitely couldn't look away from. So very excited for these. Again, I will be releasing the part 2 of this around May 2021. So it's gonna be a while. You'll probably forget, maybe you won't, but it's definitely going to be coming because there's obviously more releases coming in the latter half of the year, but there's so much good stuff coming out in the first half. Are you guys looking forward to any of these reads? Did you not know about some of these reads? I hope that maybe you guys didn't, but they were ones you were interested in anyway. Let me know in the comments down below, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're enjoying your December, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!